Morning everybody. Witter time. Let's finish this Witter Quilt 12. So I spent all day yesterday busy doing, because I know we're up to block 9. We need 3 more blocks to make it a go. The original design that I had in mind has gone out the window, I have to say, and I apologise to those of you that were expecting something. It's taken so long. I think we just need to get this finished for you all, which would be good. Right, so there's 3 blocks today, and because I've been making it in 2 different colourways, that meant I did 6 blocks yesterday for you and wrote up all of the gear for you. So block number 10. Now it's a variation on a thing, because I thought, well, we were doing sort of like half square triangles and working through and doing, so I've carried it on a bit with a lot of colour placement as well. I'm always on about colour placement. So there we go. I know that that's a traditional, can't think of the name. They're all traditional blocks that I might have added or changed or tweaked or something. There's not a lot new in this world, it has to be said. And there's the other one. So we've got a nice star. I've changed it in the centre there. I've got 4 squares going on, so 4 2-inch squares. Whereas I think you'll find traditionally that was possibly either a plain square or a repeat of this in here. All right, but anyway, so we've got a background fabric, so that comes down to the small triangles around the outside edge, and obviously the one little bit within. Okay, so I don't want to bore anybody and I don't want to teach anyone to suck eggs, because that's not so nice, but triangles, I've probably said this hundreds of times to you all before, handle them as little as you can, all right, because otherwise the bias cuts can stretch and that will distort your work and you'll be there forever trying to get it flat and straight and all the rest of it and to fit. So how I've done this one, I worked out what size these were, i.e. if you made them a square, what size would that be? And what size would we need to have our seam allowance all the way around? So 4 inches basically. So if you were to cut 2 4-inch squares, so a pail and a whatever 4-inch square, divide them in half and put them back together, they'll come back plenty big enough, but you do then need to trim. Okay, it's a nice way of making sure that they're going to fit well and you're going to have enough of everything, but you do need to trim them. And that brings us back to our nasty 45-degree angle trimming. All right, so it needs to be that your stitch is on there whilst you're then trimming it square. All right, so do take your time. So that's how I did those. And the rest is all pretty well standard, you know what you're doing. Okay, so that's block number 10. Right, okay, so then block number 11 is a sort of a take on it as well. You can see I've got lots of pieces in this one. So we've gone back to the 4 1-inch thingies, which are here in our previous star. But these always look like some excuse me, Star Wars type thing to me. Let me show you the block. It looks, when you can see the colour, it looks, not that one so much, but that one, it looks like a mine, I don't know, a bomb or a something anyway. I'm losing it. So we've got all the 4s. So those you can do in a great big long strip, join all the strips, chop them to what you want, dead quick to do. All right. That centre is the same as we just discussed. So you're going to do your 4-inch squares and you're going to cut them in half and then rejoin them. And then your outsides, if you cut 5-inch square, cut them in half, rejoin them and then trim them. Rule of thumb I always go by, you can get all sorts of lovely tell me schedules or charts of how big do I have to cut this in order to get me half square triangles. Lovely, because you've got to remember you need the seam allowance in the centre. I sort of rule of thumb, I need these squares to be 4 inches finished, so I add 1 inch, put it all together and then just trim it back to, it would be 4.5 for your seam allowances. All right, so that's basically what I do. It's a mine. I'm sure this is a mine. So there's the other one. So the reason that looks different is the colour placement. Just different colours, and also the stripies, I've turned them. If you look at it on that one, they're horizontal. This one, no, they're vertical, and these are horizontal. I'm sorry, it's been a long weekend. I was up to the Festival of Quilts on Friday, and we were only there for half a day just to show our face and to have a quick look at the winners and that sort of thing. And we did a bit of a Three Amigos, so Andy from Crafty UK, Julia from Crosspatch, and myself. So I'm a little bit tired. It was the worst Friday in the world to have to come down the M5 into Cornwall, because half the world were coming down the M5 into Cornwall. Such is life. Right, so last block. Now this is hugely colour placement, and it's a bit of a mix on that one. All right, so I've actually sort of done a colour round. When I take the photos, I'll make sure that you can see the difference in colours. There's 4 coloured and 1 background. Okay, basically the same thing. We've got our little squares here, so cut a square, cut it in half, 4-inch ones. All right, but it's going to give you colour graduation. So as you're putting your squares out, cut them and lay them out. I got in a moment this morning and had 2 triangles in the wrong places. I colour number 3 with colour number 4, or even colour number 2 with colour number, I don't know, but it was all wrong. Out came the unpicker and had to redo that bit. All right, so we're starting pale or dark and working our way, whichever way you fancy it. I quite like this one. There we go, you can see it quite clearly there. So you've got the dark at the top going down to the light. I think they're lovely. I really like that one. So that's our last 3 blocks for our Witter quilt number 12. I'm going to suggest to you that that's enough blocks, and if you want to put them together in any way, shape or form that suits you, then please do so. It will be a while before I get around to putting them together, I have to say. I apologise for that. But I'm thinking sashings with cornerstones, pretty old fashioned in truth, with a nice plain sashing. So it could be the cream and the green in the 2 different ones that I'm looking at, with cornerstones of odds. Outside small border, or at least the sashings. And then I've got loads of fabric left over. I don't know about anybody else, but I've got loads. So I'm quite liking the idea of a piano key border, so lots of odd shapes or sizes anyway, around the outside edge. That's my thoughts on it, and I think that would look quite nice. So there we are. I'm apologise. Hopefully you've had a learning, if nothing else, within these blocks. All right, and I'll see you on the next Witter, which may be a while. But I think what we do now, it might not be actual full-on quilts, but I think it will be little projects or odd blocks that I find that I think you're going to like, things like that, because I'm very aware that a few of you were waiting for this, and I don't want that to happen again in future. All right, I can't see that my life is going to calm down for the next foreseeable. So I think we call it a day at 12 quilts, and we'll just go to small projects now. Okay, there we are. So as ever, be lovely.